Hey, buddy. Welcome. We're going to do some work on Athens today. If you haven't heard of Athens, I'll show you some of the GitHub pages for it. It's a pretty cool project that I started. I'm super excited about it. So I've got my tea with me here. We're going to go and check out how to do Helm charts. We're going to have the goal here, probably not going to finish it today, but we're going to try to publish a Helm chart, or actually just create a Helm chart so that we can really quickly and easily deploy an Athens proxy onto a Kubernetes cluster. So let's get started. I'm going to attempt to share my screen here. Let me go into my little infinite recursion thing. Yeah, it looks like it's working. So Athens. First of all, let's just check out Athens. Since this is the first time I'm doing some coding, live coding on a screen share, I'll just go into really quickly what Athens is. It has a cool logo, but also, if you've heard of Go modules or Vigo, it's this new kind of dependency management thing for Go. It's going to be coming out in Go 1.11 in sort of its like first iteration. It's going to be behind a feature flag and all that good stuff. But it introduces this like download protocol, so you don't have to just download stuff from GitHub or any other VCS. It can download from a server, and the protocol's kind of simple. If you check out my blog, if it will load, come on. How do I, there we go. There's a blog post called Project Athens, the download protocol. Just go to medium.com @rschless. It's the same as my Twitter handle. You can find this post in there. There's kind of just like four endpoints, like list the versions, and then there's metadata about the versions, and then there's actually getting the code for the version, for that version that you want. And the code is just like a zip file, so it's not that big of a deal. It's not like some complicated directory tree thing. Vigo, now Go modules, made it super simple, which is awesome. So Athens comes into play because it's a server that actually serves those four endpoints. So over here, we're still working on it. It's kind of alpha, but eventually we're going to want to host a bunch of these Athens proxies. Proxy is the name for that server, by the way. And we're going to want to host a bunch of those on all kinds of different clouds and stuff. And I want to host some on Kubernetes. And that's why I want to do this issue, number 421. I even assigned myself to it, so that's how you know I'm for real. So yeah, I'm going to do this issue. A little bit of background also, if you haven't heard of Helm, let's go to helm.sh. Helm is kind of like Homebrew for Mac or apt-get for Ubuntu and Debian. I guess, what is it? Like RPM or Yum for Red Hat and Red Hat sisters and brothers. It's a bunch of Kubernetes YAML files that are all like the manifests for Kubernetes to do pods and stuff like that. And by the way, if you don't know a lot about Kubernetes, that's cool. I'll kind of explain stuff as I go. So anyway, back to Helm. It's like bundling all those things together into one thing, which is actually also a zip file. Actually, I think it's a tar.gz file. And it kind of bundles all those manifests together into this logical thing called a chart. And I kind of view a chart as like an application that you want to run. And that's how I'm going to treat it for Athens. So I'm going to make this chart for Athens. And it's going to be able to deploy Athens onto any Kubernetes that you want, just by running like Helm install my thing on the command line. So I'm going to get started. So what I generally do here when I'm contributing, let me go to my other terminal. So I usually git fetch everything, and I've got this remote called upstream. oops, upstream there. And upstream points to like the upstream repository. So I'll show you my remote. Let me clear the screen out. I'll make this a little bit bigger too. So upstream is the upstream. And then I've got my fork called origin, and then one of my colleagues, I have her remote here, I think, so I could check out and test her code as well. I think over time I'll probably get more remotes in there too. Just like same thing when I want to check out people's code, test it out or whatever. So I fetched upstream. Now I'm going to check out I'm going to create a new branch. Let's call it Helm. And I'm going to check it out off of upstream master. So that way I'm going to make sure I'm like up to date, obviously, with upstream. Oops. What did I mess up? Oh, oh boy. See, I got myself into a pickle here. Let's see. So I'm at Helm. I'm going to start this over again. I'm going to go back to master. I'm going to delete the Helm branch. Let's try this again. Check out new branch, Helm, upstream, master. There we go. I don't know what I did last time. Maybe I misspelled something. So let's clear that out. And then I'm going to go to VS Code. Even though I'm a Microsoft employee, I've been using VS Code since before I joined Microsoft. So not intending this to be a shameless plug. I really do like VS Code. So I'm going to go into VS Code. I'm going to create a new directory called charts. And I'm going to put my Helm chart in there. Under charts, I'm going to make another one called proxy, because I don't know what other charts I'm going to have. And here's where I go and start stealing stuff. So there is, in GitHub, there's this repo called Helm, github/helm/charts. And it is kind of what it says it is. It's these applications, all kinds of different applications, different languages, etc. And they kind of curate the charts together and make them like according to best practices and everything. And so it's a really good place if you want to like install like WordPress or something. But for my purposes, I love to steal stuff so I don't have to make it myself. I like to go in here and steal charts. So let's go down. I usually like going to WordPress because it's got a bunch of different pieces in it. So WordPress. So just a quick note about charts. They always have to have chart.yaml, values.yaml, and a templates directory with stuff in it. Templates has like Kubernetes manifests in it. I'll get into that in a second. But for now, I'm just going to take like the bones, just set up the basic structure. So copy and paste chart.yaml into here. And also chart.yaml has to be uppercase. That one always gets me. This is all wrong, so I'll make that right in a second. I'm going to go back here, grab my values.yaml as well. And obviously this is all going to be wrong too. So blah, 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 go down here. I'll end up probably deleting a ton of that stuff. Values YAML, I'm just going to paste that in. This is the glamorous life of a programmer, right? You just copy and paste stuff. Templates is my directory of Kubernetes manifests. Go here. Now, I'm not going to have a notes.txt yet. This is kind of like the README for the thing. That's a fly. This is kind of the README for like what should Helm show after the chart is installed. It is going to show this on the command line. And this like gets rendered basic like via some basic template rules like that and that. That's really nice for like a mature chart like this. Eventually, we probably should have this for Athens, but I'm not going to really bother it for right now because I'm lazy, I guess. But I am going to bother with this. Deployment, if you're not familiar with Kubernetes, here's where I'll go into some concepts. A deployment is a controller, this thing that like makes sure a bunch of pods are running. Um, and a pod is a group of Docker containers. Technically, they don't have to be Docker, but whatever, hand wave. A deployment is a bunch of pods. It makes sure that X number of pods are always running. You set that number here. So like if I say 3 replicas, a deployment tells Kubernetes to make sure that 3 of the specific pod that I tell it are always running. And then once again, a pod is, it can be a couple containers or one, but they're all in like one thing, one group. And they're always like on the same node, which in the cloud it's a virtual a VM, excuse me. If it's on bare metal, then it's like an actual computer. But whatever, they're all like in a group. They're always moved around in the same thing. And a pod is like the basic building block of Kubernetes. So yeah, this is saying like I want 3 of the pod that I say to always be running at a single moment in time. That's really nice because if you've got like 8 Kubernetes nodes and then like 5 of them crash, then you'll have 3 left, and Kubernetes will automatically recover and make sure that whatever pods we're running, they get restarted on the nodes that are still alive, so that it'll always come back and make sure, yeah, you're still running 3, hooray. So yeah, that's like Kubernetes deployments and pods, as short as I could explain them. That's not the best explanation, and I can get into a better one another time. So we are going to continue our copy and paste journey, and we're going to call this deployment.yaml. And I'm going to save that. Okay, so we've got our basics. This is like really, really basic chart. There's a ton of crap in here that is super, super good for WordPress, but it doesn't apply to us like at all. So I'm now going to start going in and fixing that and making this thing actually good for our purposes. So let me close this out. And I actually should have kept that open just for reference. Helm charts. There we go. WordPress. Cool. All right. So I'm going to start with like the metadata. So this is the chart. I'm going to call this Athens-proxy because I think later we might have like an Athens dash like global proxy or registry, or I don't know what we'll call it. So version is the version of the chart itself, but not the application. So it's like they're trying to separate the chart artifact from the application number, so that like maybe I could have like 5 different charts for the same application version for whatever reason. Maybe they're like different configurations or something. But for now I have 1 chart, and I don't really know my application version yet because like this is still super alpha. So I'm going to just call both O.O.1. Basically the semantic version cop-out, saying like super early, I have no idea. So hope you like that. Description, I'm just going to say the proxy server for Go modules. Icon, I have no idea, so let's just leave it as WordPress. Keywords, I'm gonna just like put 1 keyword, maybe I'll put 2, Golang and package management. Home, I'll put GitHub. Go mods/Athens, hope I spelled that right. Yes, I did. Okay, sources, honestly I forgot what sources is, so I'm just gonna leave it empty. But I'll leave the field there because I'm not sure if Helm like needs it to be there. But I'm pretty sure Helm doesn't need it to be like to have something in it. And then maintainers, same deal. I don't remember if you're supposed to put like an organization in there or what. I'm not sure again if like it needs the key to be there, but I'm pretty sure it doesn't need to have a value. Oh yeah, and last line, engine. So One of the cool powers of Helm is that it can have like a templating language so that it can render a template or a Kubernetes manifest for you from a template. So that means you can like give it parameters right when you do Helm install, and then it'll render these Kubernetes templates, and then it'll shoot that rendered template up to Kubernetes. So like if I go into deployment.yaml, all these squiggly lines here, like whatever, squiggly template, there's another one. Here's one like chart name, chart version, release name, so on and so forth, all down the line. Those are template directives. So when I run Helm install, these will actually get filled in. And then after they're filled in, this thing will be like a valid Kubernetes manifest, and Helm will send it up for you to the Kubernetes API. And that's really cool because like you can change around your chart and render this template with different stuff depending on like which Kubernetes deployment you want. So like later on, we might not get to it this time around, might be maybe next time. But later on at some point, I'll show like deploying this to a Kubernetes cluster in Azure because I get one of those for free. And I'll show this and you'll see like I'm going to change it around a little bit for Azure, but I'll also do a local Kubernetes cluster and we'll see it that way too. And these are, by the way, for anyone curious, these are Golang's built-in templates. So like if you're really, really curious, you can go to godoc.org slash HTML, actually, sorry, it's slash text slash template. And there are these like super verbose kind of weird instructions for how to write templates. Like if you understand this when you read it one time over, like I'll send you a present because it's pretty confusing. And if you're a newcomer, the best way to go is like just copy this basically. Like the real ones that you're gonna want to care about are dot values. Anything that starts with dot values, that's stuff that you can pass into the chart, and like it'll actually like replace those template. These are called template directives. It'll actually replace these with the values that you pass in. So that's kind of handy. So anytime you do dot values dot whatever and you surround it with the double squiggly, that's like a parameter. If you think of this as like you can parameterize your Kubernetes stuff. All right, so I've talked enough. Let's go through and actually figure out what to do here. All right, name, I'm gonna leave that. Labels, app, blah, blah, blah. I'm just gonna leave this all as is because it's not like the biggest deal. Those are just like metadata. It actually, I installed the Helm extension for VS Code, so you can kind of see map of string, blah blah blah, used to categorize, and then later on, like for replication controllers, those are kind of outdated, but services in Kubernetes are super important. So yeah, like you can use these to hook up services to your deployment and other stuff. So it's not like the biggest deal, but it's important. Name is obviously really important because it's the name. It's like the unique identifier. And then spec. This is another one I'm going to spend a bunch of time on. This is really not the right thing. I think there's a bug in the VS Code plugin. Spec really is like where the meat of everything is. So replicas, values.replica count. I think that's good because I want to be able to change it on the fly. So you can change that on the fly. You can update an existing Helm, like an existing Helm installed thing. So that would be a running Athens. I can update it. Or obviously when I install, I can decide, oh, I don't want 3, I want 5 or 100 or whatever. So that's kind of nice. And then spec template. This is a little weird because it looks a lot like metadata, but template is like the actual, like what do all the pods look like in the deployment. So all the pods in the deployment have to be the same thing. They're just, the deployment is like replicates each of them however many times you tell it to. So again, like this looks weird because now the spec.template has metadata in it as well. And again, really the VS Code plugin doesn't tell you that much useful stuff. But basically I'm going to have just about the same labels with the exception of heritage. So not a huge deal there. And now we've got spec.template.spec. A little weird, but same deal here. This is the meat and potatoes. Like this is what containers the pod should run. And also like environment variables for those containers, and obviously the image that the container should run, the name of it. And we'll go into all that in a second. All right, so image pull secrets. This is for containers or images that you want to run that are in private repositories. So that could be like Docker Hub that you decided the image should be private. You can put credentials for it in there. A lot of like industrial strength apps, they'll store it in CDN, content distribution network, if you're unfamiliar. And those will be like things like on Google Cloud, it'll be, I think it's called Google Container Registry. Azure is called Azure Container Registry. On AWS, Amazon, it's called Elastic Container Registry, I think. So basically, thing container registry in the acronym. But ours is going to be public. I'll show where it is in just 1 second. This is going to be a Docker image that's available to anyone because we want anyone to be able to run an Athens proxy whenever they want. So I'm going to delete this because if the image is not public, there's a big problem. It should always be public. So I'm going to pause there and just show off where the image is. It's on Docker Hub, hub.docker.com. And it is in the Go Mods organization. And this name is not going to last forever. It's going to just be called proxy. And like the description's off. We don't really have a Docker image published like automatically yet, so this is really messy. And this will get updated and be a lot more clean shortly. There's actually an issue. Oh, it's right here. There's an issue in Athens, issue number 81, that someone's going to work on, maybe me, but I think someone else is planning on it. And they are going to make this thing automatically published. So for now, we're going to pull gomod/Athens. And if you look here for Docker tags, there's nothing, which is not awesome. But I have another one in a different repo. Oops. Go back to Docker Hub. I have a different organization called Go Packages. And I have Go Packages/proxy. So I'm going to pull this down. Just do a Docker pull. And this one is 6 days old, so it's pretty up to date. I'm going to pull it down and show how to rename it and then push it up to Go Mods/proxy. Okay, so here's the Docker pull using latest. Okay, so I already had that in my local cache. And now I'm going to do Docker tag. And I forgot actually how to do this. All right, so I'm going to do Docker tag and then Go Packages/proxy. And then I'm going to rename it to Go Mods/Athens. So Docker tag, Go Packages, proxy. And I'm going to put a tag in there. See how they have an optional colon tag. So Docker, the CLI, this command here, always defaults to latest, the latest tag, if you don't put one. So I'm doing this just to be explicit because I think it's better to be explicit than implicit. Okay, and then I'm going to, this is basically doing a copy. So I'm going to copy Go Packages/proxy and the latest tag to Go Mods/Athens. And again, I'm going to use latest. So this was super fast because basically, just like when you do a move on disk, This is just like making us kind of like a symlink to or from go packages / proxy to go mods / Athens. But when I do a Docker push, I'm actually going to be sending up the Docker image to the Docker Hub go mod / Athens. So this is more like a copy, like a CP or an rsync, more likely, more appropriately. It's going to like almost literally rsync the whole image up to Docker Hub. So I'm going to do a Docker push, go mod / Athens, and using the latest tag. Now my internet connection is like decent. Let's see what happens. Waiting. Yeah. So a lot of the stuff was already up there. But now, if we go back, and I always forget how to navigate Docker Hub, so pardon me. If we go back to go mods / Athens, you can see last pushed a few seconds ago, and now in tags, now we have a latest. So hurrah. Okay, so that was our little side little rabbit hole, I guess, to Docker and Docker Hub. But we're going to remember go mods / Athens and then the latest tag. Okay. So we've got values.image.registry, repository, and tag. Okay, and you can kind of see like if we substitute something in for here, and then we substitute something in for here, that's going to be like go mods / didn't highlight the right thing, / Athens, and then there's going to be a colon there, and then we're going to use latest for the tag. Okay. So right there, we're going to pause on the deployment.yaml. And we're going to go into what it looks like to have default values. Okay. So that was our third file called values.yaml. Okay. So we're going to go into values.yaml, and we're going to go all the way to the top. And what is this file doing? So basically this file is serving as defaults for all of these values here. So everything that has .values .something, you can set defaults for in this values.yaml file. So first of all, I'm going to delete these comments because we're not doing WordPress anymore. Okay, so registry is not used. I'm going to leave it though. Repository is, oops. I'm going to leave registry actually because we want docker.io. That was my bad. Docker.io is the registry because that's Docker Hub. Okay. And then repository is going to be go mods / Athens. So yeah, I got that all wrong. We're going to have docker.io / and then this whole thing is going to be go mods / Athens. And then our tag is going to be latest for now. Okay, so no more Debian. We're going to do latest. Now, like this isn't really a best practice. Like latest is not really unique. It could always be updated. And so like it's kind of confusing. Like you're running an image called latest with a tag latest. And then like someone else could be running an image, the exact same image with latest, but it could be totally different. They're called the same, but it could be totally different. It's not great. Like you have to tell someone, run this, but Docker pull first. And that's like, oh, weird. Okay. So actually it kind of even says that. Defaults to always if image tag is latest, otherwise set it to if not present. So we really want always. Always. And the reason why is this exact same thing. You're telling Kubernetes, before you run this thing, always pull it down from Docker Hub. Like make sure it's the absolute most up-to-date thing from Docker Hub. If we had like a specific tag, like we did before, that like was immutable, meaning like you push it once and then it never changes, the underlying image never changes, then great, you can do if not present because we know it's immutable. So if Kubernetes pulls it down, it should never really have to pull it again. Okay. And remember, we got rid of image pull secrets, so we can just delete that real quick. Okay. So we got rid of that. Now Kubernetes is going to go and grab gomod/Athens, the latest tag. It's going to always pull it down to make sure it's up to date. Okay. So we actually, now that we're here, we got the biggest stuff out of the way. So like this is telling Kubernetes, grab Athens and run it. Okay. Now onto environment variables. So you can see kind of the structure, name, value. It's a YAML list. So it's like every one of these things, every hyphen, we go down the list here. Each one of those, here's another one, here's another one. Each one of these is a name value pair. Now we made it fancy here, like this is a template, again, where you can do like basic if-else stuff. But we don't really have to do it so much here. I'm just gonna leave allow empty password. Actually, no, let me change this up. A thing. And then we'll do value the answer. Okay, I'm just gonna leave it like that for now to remind myself like how to do environment variables. And then I'm gonna delete everything else because like, this is kind of crazy. But we've got this other type of environment variable, which is still having a name, but now it's not like a hard-coded thing like this, but this is actually grabbing the value from a Kubernetes secret. That's kind of nice because like maybe we have a database secret, which that's what's going on here, or whatever else, you know, credentials to GitHub or something. And this is saying like, I don't want to hard code it. I want to put it in a secret, and then I want you to inject the value of that secret into the pod, or actually into the container, like at the last minute, so that no one can see it but the container. It's a little bit more secure. So what I'm going to do here is I am going to get rid of all this stuff, but before I do, I'm going to just remind myself how to do it later on. And I'm just going to do like my password, my credentials. So let's imagine like the secret is called my credentials and it has credentials in it. And then one of the key value pairs in the secret is my password. Okay. This is, of course, like this is just imaginary, but basically this is the structure of how to inject an environment variable into one of my containers from a secret. Okay, so gonna get rid of all this other stuff. Blah, blah, blah. You can see right here, this is another example of how to grab environment variables from a secret. And by the way, this thing, if you notice like the, what is that thing called? Like bar, I don't remember. Pipe, I think it's pipe. Pipe is actually a really good name if you're familiar with Linux and Unix. Because it's taking this value, oops, it's taking this value and then piping it into this function called quote. So the thing that's going to get rendered here is whatever username for, I guess, an SMTP server, because just guessing because it's that. It's going to take that username and then put quotes around it, right? That's the function name. And so the end result is going to be like this, my username. Right. It's a super easy way. You could also do something like this. Let me just comment that out. Oops. I don't know why. For some reason, VS Code like does commenting kind of wrong. Value. You could do this, and then you don't need that. So either way works. See how I just surrounded it with quotes. I kind of like this way that I did because it's a little bit more like. I guess easy to read, but either one works. So I'm going to just keep deleting stuff. And you see there, I've got my environment variables now. So I've got a thing and database password. Okay, so I'm actually going to collapse those now. And now we got ports. These are what they sound like, ports. So I'm going to just have one port called HTTP. I'm pretty sure I'm going to serve on 8080, but I can't really remember. And this is just the container. So like when we're ready to expose this to the internet, we don't have to be serving on 8080. and HTTPS. If we need it, we can go back later and put it, but I don't remember. I don't remember actually if we're going to be serving on HTTPS from the container. But certainly, like to the internet, we'll have a load balancer that eventually we'll configure to serve to the internet. So then we've got liveness probe and we've got readiness probe. I'm going to just opt out of these for now. They're really good to have, but I'm not going to have them for now. Basically, they tell Kubernetes like, hey, here's how you should check to see if my thing is working or not. So then volume mounts, again, I'm going to leave these out. But basically, these are things that give the container like a stable disk to write to. And if you're on a cloud, this is a managed disk. Like Azure Files on Azure, I think it's Google Files or Google Volumes or something on GCP. Amazon, it's Elastic Block Storage, EBS. I think you can even use NFS locally, Gluster FS, not locally, like if you're on a bare metal or something. It supports tons of stuff. Kubernetes supports tons of stuff. So volume mounts I'm going to get rid of. And resources, we don't have any right now. Resources is like, I believe it's like, you can tell it the maximum number of, the maximum amount of memory, maximum number of cores, and so on. So volumes is kind of similar to before, it's volumes. And node selector, I'm leaving that off. Affinity, I'm going to leave that off. Tolerations, I'm going to leave that off too. And you can obviously read about all this. This is open. Docs are at kubernetes.io. I'll bring that up, not Spotify. Listen to music. Next time, maybe I'll turn on some music. So yeah, kubernetes.io. There's just the marketing stuff, but documentation is under documentation. So you can go check that out. It's crazy interesting. Okay. All right. We've got our deployment.yaml. And we've really got like 3 things we need to specify: registry, repository, and tag. So just a reminder, like everything .values, everything under .values, that's stuff that you set. Everything under other stuff, Helm just knows about. .chart and .release, Helm just knows about those, and it injects them for you. And those are based on like what you set in the Helm name, and you'll see that, and like the namespace and like what the release number is and stuff. We'll get to that. So under values.yaml, again, these are the defaults. Really, we don't need any of this stuff because we deleted it all from our environment variables, and remember like affinity and stuff. So oops, let me go back up to the top and we can delete all that. So that's cool. This thing is a little simpler now. So now we've got this thing, environment variables. So we actually need those right now. What are they? Okay, so now since this is a brand new Helm chart, we've got to go in and actually like look at what environment variables the proxy expects. So before I do that, I'm going to actually like check this stuff in. So we're going to add our charts directory, clear the screen. So great, we've got a bunch of new files. The 3 that I was just working on, those are committed. So I'm going to commit them first. Let's just call this like chart skeleton. And I'll submit a pull request for this later. You know what? I'll submit it now so we can all see like what that looks like. So let's see. We're going to fix number 421 in our pull request. So remember that. And we committed it, and let's git push. So this is doing a push to origin is my fork. We're going to make sure that origin, that this branch, we're going to git push origin Helm. And we're going to make sure that this branch locally tracks upstream, the Helm branch upstream. So that next time I can just run a git push. All right, so it's almost done. All right, so now you can see Helm set up to track remote branch Helm from origin. That's my fork. And GitHub is cool. It just figured out, oh yeah, one of the forks got a new branch. So now I can do a pull request. And I already forgot what issue it was. Oh yeah, 421. I just did a quick search for Helm and it popped up. So fixes number 421. Great. And by the way, this is like a nice practice. If you submit a pull request, whether it's on your own project, another project that you want to contribute to, it's pretty rad if you do this, because whoever someone merges the PR, automatically the issue will be closed. And it'll say on the issue, hey, PR number, whatever, it fixed this issue, so I can close it out. And GitHub automatically closes it out, so that's awesome. All right, so for the title, in Athens, we really encourage folks to put a WIP at the beginning of a pull request name. If you're still doing stuff, it's not really ready to be merged. And that's because if someone comes and reviews it, they'll know to not review it as if it was going to be merged immediately. They can kind of review it and instead give people pointers and direction. So it's a little bit different kind of review, which is nice. And I'm just going to say creating Helm chart for deploying the Athens proxy to a Kubernetes cluster. So that might be a little bit too much. Maybe I'll change the name later, but it's as descriptive as I can think of for now. And again, this is another thing. We're not super formal in the Athens project. Write as much as you can. That's cool. But if someone doesn't understand what you're trying to do in the PR, we'll just ask. Be like, hey, what exactly do you mean? Or are you trying to do X, or can you expand, or whatever? Don't feel the pressure to write the perfect thing immediately. And same thing for that matter. If you write a PR, don't feel the pressure to wait to submit your PR. It's totally fine if you submit a WIP PR and you have no idea what you're doing, or you don't know if it's the right way. We're all nice. No one's gonna shoot you down. No one's gonna say you're stupid. We all just want you to contribute, and if you contribute, great. Even if it's not the right thing, it'll start a discussion, and that's what we want. That's how we make progress. So let's see. Contributing guidelines have changed. I'm just going to check those out because I actually don't know what's changed. Let's see. Oh, so Michal, one of my coworkers at Microsoft and a super rad dude, he changed something. I'm going to actually just look at the commit, see what he changed. So he said they've got a tutorial. I've actually watched that. It's awesome. So just go check out gomods/Athens on GitHub and contributing.md. You'll find this. It's a really good YouTube video. Yeah, it's pretty awesome. And then he says, go check out the channel. We're all very active in the Athens channel. So if you're on Go for Slack, check it out. If you're not on Go for Slack, just make a comment on this video. I'll get you set up. Coding guidelines. Code like the Go team. This is a good guideline. I've read over this printed version and I've watched the GopherCon RU, GopherCon Russia talk. So this is great. I highly recommend watching the talk at least. If you got a little bit more time, reading the version there. Let's see, he did some stuff in the docs. And by the way, the docs get auto-published to our website. Communication flow. This is actually technical details for how the proxy and the soon-to-be registry communicate. So not too relevant for me right now when I submit a PR. Same thing for proxies, just details on how the proxy and the soon-to-be registry work. Let's see what else we got. So overall components of the whole system, summary of what Athens is, the download protocol. That's the same thing I put in that that blog post, and then some images. Okay. So I got an idea of what I have to do for contributing, what's new. So I'm going to close that out. I'm going to ask, let's see, I'm going to ask just some folks who I know are familiar with Helm. It's my colleague, Brian. I know he's familiar with Helm. I don't know who other folks are, but a maintainer might come along and say, oh, I know someone who's familiar with Helm, or I'm familiar with Helm, so I'll check this out too, or I'll tell someone else to check this out. So I'm going to leave it at that. Some other maintainer might come along and put a label on this or something else, milestone, project, whatever. And that's totally cool. I'm not going to do it here because if you submit a PR and you're not a maintainer, you won't see this stuff. So let's just do this. You know what? I'll write a little bit more in here. I want to not contribute. I want to push this to a. I want to. Let's make this a little better. Can't talk very well. I want to deploy a proxy to my Kubernetes cluster soon, just to demo it to some people, including at my lightning talk at GopherCon. Shameless plug, I'm going to do a lightning talk at GopherCon in Denver. So if you're going to GopherCon, check it out. It's on the last day, on that Thursday. So yeah, I want to demo it to some people, probably at a Athens dev meeting. Those are on Thursdays. Ping me or make a comment if you're interested in going to that. And then the GopherCon thing. So I'd like to have a proxy running on my Kubernetes, on my cluster before I do that. And then I'm going to leave the fixes. That's good. All right, I'm going to create this. All right, there we go. I got the PR up. Our repo blocks merging until someone, at least one person, has finished reviewing, and also until primarily this one is important, until CI runs. Okay. All right. So I made the PR. I'm going to go back to the Helm chart. So where we left off is environment variables. Oops. There, environment variables. So this is the tricky part. We've got to go in and we've got to go to the code and figure out, well, what environment variables does this thing expect? So we're going to do it a couple ways. The first is our Docker compose file. So we're not going to go into like, now you have to learn Docker compose. That's yet another thing. We don't have to deal with that. I'm going to go into the file. It is YAML, right? So we can see like, these are all the services that the proxy might expect. So it's like, we've got a little bit of an idea, like what's the deal? Like what running services might the proxy expect? Okay. So the other thing is the makefile. This gives us kind of another clue. Whoops, not the makefile, sorry. In the command directory, under .env, here is an environment variable that our dev environment would expect. Right? So the tool we're using is called Buffalo. That's kind of like similar to a Rails, but for Go. And Buffalo has a command line called Buffalo dev. And when it runs that, it will automatically inject this environment variable into the app. So we know we're probably going to need this. So first off, let me copy that into my environment variables. So we don't know what it's going to be yet. So there you go. Don't know yet. Okay, so we're getting some clues here. We know like what are the possible services that we might need to point to. I'm going to close that down. And we know now that like Buffalo build is going to build the proxy from this directory. So that's a clue, like where should we look to find some of these environment variables. I'm going to close that out. And we found one of the environment variables, so that's cool. And we did all that without looking at any code so far. So that's cool. But now we're going to have to look at some code. So remember from just a few seconds ago, in the CMD directory, the proxy, all the guts of the proxy are in cmd/proxy. All right. So like any Go program, we're going to start at main.go. So this is the entry point, right? When the Go program, the proxy program starts up, this is what executes. Okay. So pretty Spartan. You see, I put in a Greek joke there because it's called Athens. I'll let you soak that up while I drink my tea. Pretty good, yeah. So pretty Spartan, but we're going to just start here because we call a function. So let's jump into that. So here we got some real meat. Okay, so this is a little bit like based on knowledge. And like this is the very first time we're building a Helm chart. So I get to use my knowledge of this code base to kind of figure out what's going on and navigate this thing. So first of all, context.background. I happen to know that requires no environment variables. This is actually a standard library call. And we've got great docs for it. This is from the Go plugin in VS Code. So yeah, not a big deal. We don't need to look at that. But I do know that get storage does. It has a lot of environment variables. All right, so storage type with default. We're going to jump into there because I happen to know that the env package, this one, that's all about environment variables, right? The name is a tip off. So let's go into here. And there you go. We've got Athens storage type. So I happen to know env is a package that is inside of the Buffalo project, github/gobuffalo/env. And we're doing a get. So get gives back the Athens storage type, the value of that environment variable. Or if that environment variable doesn't exist, it's just going to default to value. Okay, so I'm going to go back in time, and it's going to default to Mongo. So I intend to use disk storage type, that's here, for now at least. So I have to change that environment variable. I have to override it because I don't want to use Mongo. So let's go back into here, and I am actually going to set this to disk. But I'm not going to set it to disk in here. All right, you remember this? This is that template syntax. So this is the thing that I'm going to be able to change it like on the fly when I do an install. So that means I can install like an Athens over here with disk. I can install an Athens over here with Mongo, something else up there. I can install this thing on like 10 different Kubernetes clusters with different storages. Okay, so how do I actually get this to be disk by default? Back in that values.yaml. Okay, so these are the defaults like we did for the image and the pull policy. And I'm going to put storage type disk. So by default, if I just install this thing without setting any custom stuff, I'm going to get a disk storage. All right, so that was the first environment variable. Yes, we got it. Okay, so going back to our app.go, remember this thing is called by main. So we figured out our storage. I happen to know that module.newFilter doesn't really have anything I need, but let's go into there. So I happen to know like this stuff doesn't require environment variables. So we're going to go back. I know that for disk storage, connect doesn't do anything. Okay, so not a big deal. But I know that getWorker, this is to do background jobs. getWorker does stuff. Okay. So getWorker uses that env package again and talks to Redis. Redis queue port. Let me go back a second. Redis queue port with default. Okay, so that's all good. Redis queue port with default uses that environment variable. Okay, so I did the default of 6379. And I'm not sure. I'm going to talk to a Redis. I'm not sure what Redis I'm going to talk to yet. Probably one on the cluster, but I'm not really sure. I might use an Azure Redis. So I'm going to actually declare this environment variable in my deployment.yaml template. And then I'll be able to like default it for now to 6379. But later I might need to override it. So I might as well just template it now. So it was called Athens Redis queue port. And where was I? Deployment.yaml. Name Athens Redis queue port. And I'm going to do that same kind of parameterization. Oops. .values.redis port. Okay. So I'm going to do values here. Redis port. And remember it was 6379. So all good. That's cool. And now let me close some of these code tabs. Okay, so we've got our app.go. I'm going to go back up to that main function here. Okay, so here's our app. This was the one, again, that was called by main. We figured that thing out. We do this like logger, create a new logger. env, that looks, again, that's like a thing that we're going to need from the environment. Cloud runtime. I'm going to just not deal with this for now. I think there's Azure support in Athens right now, but I don't remember. So I'm just going to keep it as none, no harm, no foul. I'll figure that out later. I'm not even going to parameterize it for now. It's all good. I can always go back and do it later. And then env.log level. I'm going to leave it as debug because who knows what's going to happen when I put this thing onto Kubernetes. So I would love to see what's going to happen in logs. All right. So now we're going to go down. Remember, we got our worker here. We got it from above. And we did the environment variables for that stuff. Force SSL. Remember how we did an env. Let's go up and see where that's declared. All right. So here, we're doing an env.go environment with default. And we're using env all the way down there. Okay, so that's another environment variable we're going to want to set. Let's go back up here. And let's go into here. Go environment with default. Okay. So the default is, if we go back, we set it to development. But who knows, like maybe later we're going to want to set it to production. So let's go back into that. And we're going to set go env. We're just going to do the parameterization again. Okay, so go env. And then in values, we're going to default it to development. So you see kind of the pattern here is we're like picking the environment variables out of the code. We're putting them in here when it's appropriate. And we're parameterizing them, meaning we're setting up the template and then we're putting defaults into the values.yaml. So this means we don't have to set any of these. We'll just get defaults. But later on, we can go and override them pretty easily. Cool. Okay, so let's go back to our app.go. We'll go down here. And I don't remember about tracing and auth. So let's go in here. Tracing. Okay. I don't remember, so I'm just going to leave this. And maybe it'll crash. I don't remember. So we'll see. And auth. Oh boy. I'm going to leave this too because I'm not even sure if this is used anymore. So I'm leaving this. I think maybe this code even needs to be deleted because I don't know why we would need to connect to GitHub. CSRF protection. Again, I don't remember. I think it's okay for now. If it's not, again, like the thing will crash and we'll figure it out. That's a lot of how I program. It's just like, okay, ignore it for now and figure it out later. But it is in the env direct package, so let's go in. Let's see. Athens enable CSRF protection. We're defaulting it to false. I think since this is just like a REST API, I think it's okay because we're not like serving up HTML for now. So yeah, I'm gonna leave it. I'm gonna leave it out. And again, like if I find out when I run this thing that like we need it, then I'll go back. I'll add the environment variable, and then I can always do a Helm update, and it'll inject the environment variable into the new pod. All right, and then we're getting to the end here. Add proxy routes. So I happen to know this is like where the meat is. This is actually adding REST API endpoints. So we'll go into here. Okay. We pass in our app. This is the thing that actually is getting the routes set on it. Remember when we created that storage? That was disk-based storage. I kind of like hand waved over the filter. This is the thing that like tells the proxy, okay, if someone asks for this module, then like just return a 404 because we don't want people to use that. But that didn't require any environment variables, so I just left it. And then there was that logger. That was the logger that used like the cloud-specific stuff. That I turned off the cloud-specific stuff. So basically, this is just going to log to standard out. And then we're setting a slash. This is the home directory. Proxy home handler, pretty simple. Just renders HTML. And if I remember, I think this is just basically like hello world or welcome to Athens or something. I'm going to go back. Go get.new. If we check this out, this is creating like the thing that fills the cache on the back end. So it's like if someone does a go get my module and it hits Athens and Athens doesn't have my module, Athens actually on the server, it goes and does a go get my module in the back end, completely invisible to the user. And then it gets the module zip and metadata back. It sends it to, and it stores it in Athens cache. So in our case, it's going to be the disk. And then it returns all that metadata and code down to the user. So that's handy. No environment variables we have to deal with right now. Well, actually, there's one. Go binary path. So this I'm going to have to deal with later. But I am going to set it for now. So we've got a go binary path. And we've got our default value there. So let me close some stuff up. First, yeah, this is just looking for go in the path. And remember, this is going to be running in a container. And it just so happens it's going to use go in the backend, but it needs to be go 1.11 because that's the thing that has module support in it. So that's the thing that's going to be able to get my metadata and my source code in a zip. So in the container, I'm going to have to make sure, in the image, technically, I'm going to have to make sure that my go in the path is actually at go 1.11. So for now, though, I named this go binary path. That's here. And I'm just going to make this go again. And I'm just going to count on the fact that later, when I figure out how to build my Docker image, I'm just going to make it go. I'm going to make the go 1.11 binary called go. All right. And I'm going to close some stuff up now. Log, cloud runtime. I got a lot of stuff open. Go get. All right. Should be good enough. So then go get.new. Great. Now I've got download.new. Okay, this is not too much of a big deal in terms of environment variables, but this is where all that backend stuff that I was just talking about happens. So we're gonna just look through this, make sure there's no env calls. I'm pretty sure there's nothing in like underneath the hood, like in calls to dot fill cache and stuff like that. And again, like if there is, I'll deal with it. But for now, I don't think there is. So just gonna go with that for now. And then we've got handler options. Again, I'm gonna hand wave over it. I don't think there's anything in there. And then this is where we register our handlers. So this is a funny one. Absolutely unacceptable handler options. I think that's a cool error message. I don't remember why. I think it's just because like not everything can be nil. I don't remember. And then we've got all our paths. So like list, version info, module, and zip are the 4 basic things that I talked about and I put in that blog post. Latest is a new one. That is the one that if you say like go get module and you don't give go get a version, then latest, this latest endpoint will be called. So you can see it's like /my module / latest. And this thing is supposed to return like the very latest version of my module. All right. And then I've got things like list handler. This is another case where I'm going to just like assume, unless there's any env packages, it's probably okay. Same deal here. I don't see any. Same deal here. I think there's none in there. I'm pretty sure there's not any in there as well. Module handler. I think that's fine as well. Zip handler. Same deal. So yeah, I think we're good. And let's close some more stuff up here. It's another thing I like. When I have all these files open, my brain just explodes. So I like to close stuff out as fast as I can. And then we've got these environment variables that like we don't need anymore. These were, remember, those were the ones I just kept to like remind myself. And now we've got Mongo storage URL. Don't know yet. So I think I have a Mongo in Azure. And like I could install a Mongo in the cluster too. I actually think in the Helm charts, I think there's a Mongo. Yeah, there's a Mongo in here. It's actually more work for me to like figure out how to do this than it is to just like use an Azure hosted one. So cross your fingers. I think I've got a Mongo in here. I mean, sorry, not Mongo. It's Cosmos DB. And Cosmos DB exposes a Mongo API. Let me just uncheck this and just use the ones that I actually own. Yeah, test Vigo. That's probably the one. So let's see others. Hopefully you won't remember this password. No. And if you do, I'm going to delete this Mongo anyway. And then we're going to do this. Now, Helm has a way to get something from the environment, like literally like the shell environment. So I'm actually going to go, I forgot how to do that, but I'm going to go and figure out how to do that. So if I go to Helm, Helm/Helm, let's see here. I think it's under complete documentation, how to do that. Quick start, chart guide. That's the one that I'm looking for. Chart file structure, chart.yaml, versioning, blah, 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 dependencies. None of that works for me. Let's keep going down. And child values. Maybe it's under tips and tricks. Yeah. Oh no, they removed it. They removed env. All right, that's all good. I am going to put this here, and I'm going to remove this for now. I'm just going to put it in my shell. And blah, 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 blah. Let's go back here. We're going to quote it. Okay. I probably should have set this up before because, you can always pause this and copy it down. So when this video is actually up, that thing won't exist anymore. So don't try to use it. And let's see here. So I set that up in the environment, in my actual shell environment. And what this means is I'm going to have to set this on the command line. So it's like when this thing is actually, when Helm actually tries to render this template, this will actually be empty. So it's going to pass an empty value in for Athens Mongo storage URL, unless I set it manually on the command line. And so what's going to happen is the Athens proxy will start up and it'll be like, okay, I'm going to try to connect to Mongo with an empty URL. And then it's going to say, oh, well, that didn't work. And then it's going to fail and it's going to crash like every time. And actually, funny enough, Kubernetes will see it crash and it'll keep trying to restart it over and over and over and over and over again, which I always enjoy seeing. It's kind of fun. I'm just seeing here, replica count. I forgot about that. This is a total side random thing. We got to set that. So let's put it at the top. I'm going to put 3. I always kind of go for 3. Increase it maybe later. But yeah, I don't know why. I just always kind of default to 3. There was one more thing in here. Yes, full name. So what this is doing is telling Helm, go grab this other file called full name, this other template called full name, and render that and put it in and just replace it in here. So we don't have another template that's called full name, but the thing I stole this from called the WordPress chart, that has it. So where was I? Where was that? Go back to WordPress. I remember it was at the bottom. There's WordPress. Gotta go to templates, helpers. And I think it was called full name. Yeah. So the deal here is helpers or underscore helpers.tpl is like a special kind of like a partial, if you're familiar with like templates and Rails or Buffalo or something like that. And what's going on here is when you say define full name, and then the stuff in the middle actually gets rendered. And when you, in another place, when you do like full name, if I go back here, the rendered thing, the thing that you printf'd, that actually gets put into wherever you called template full name. So I'm going to steal this and I'm going to create a helpers.tpl. So underscore helpers.tpl. Then I'm going to put that beast into helpers.tpl. And honestly, I'm not going to think about it too much anymore. It worked in WordPress, so it's going to work here. I'm going to assume and hope that it'll work here. So let's go back to our deployment and look around. Is there anything we missed? So we've got our full name down on lock, chart.release. Those things are all dealt with and they're fine. Helm fills it in for us. That's taken care of. These, again, same thing. Helm takes care of it. We put that into our values.yaml. Same here. That one, again, that's what we've got to, that's the one we've got to pass on the command line. I'm going to actually quote this. I'm actually going to quote every string in case it's got weird stuff in it that either Kubernetes doesn't like in its manifests or containers don't like in their environment. So if we quote it, it'll just be fine. Containers and Kubernetes will treat it as one thing. And quote also has this nice property where if one of these values has quotes in it, quote will, I believe, quote will escape them. So like at the end of the day, this whole thing, this whole like entity or directive, there will be quotes on both sides of it, and nothing in the middle of it will end the quote because they'll all be escaped. So no matter what, like this will be one thing that no matter where you pass it, it'll get read and interpreted the right way. All right, so we've got that going on. Go back to our values. And just as a reminder to myself, I am going to set Mongo storage URL. I'm going to set it to this crazy thing. I'm going to make it really explicit. You must set this in the command line when you run Helm install. So I'll actually even put an example. For example, you need to run Helm install -- set Mongo storage URL equals my thing. Just call it my URL. And then there's other stuff after that. So I like to just separate like the intro documentation and the like example with a new line, just because for some reason I'm used to that. But the point of all this stuff is like, I really want to remind myself and other people that this thing is not like a default. You need to set it, but it's not defaulted. So later on, if you try to do a Helm install and it blows up, like your container fails or whatever, something happens, that you'll have less of a chance at least of being like totally confused, like what happened. You'll at least have a clue by reading this, which is kind of nice. Okay, so let me commit this again. So I've got that new helpers file. So now I'm going to git commit -m or -a, excuse me, and that's going to say like everything that's here, whether it's staged for commit or not staged for commit. I want to commit it no matter what. -m again, that's the message. And then I'm going to say doing more stuff on templates. Yeah, I don't usually use that descriptive of commits in the Athens project, and that's because I know that when the PR is merged, it only gets merged as one commit. It gets squashed and merged as one commit, so it's a little bit easier to like see like all these things in one change in one commit. And also like the commit that gets merged into master has the description of the PR title. So it's not too much of a big deal right now. As the project grows, it might be more beneficial though. So we'll see how it goes. So there's the commit. Oh yeah, I forgot about that. I forgot to escape it, but I'm just gonna not have it for now. And then I'm gonna push. I remember before when I did like git push -u origin Helm, that made it, that set the remote, excuse me. That set the remote branch. So now I can just git push and you can see there, it gets automatically sent to Helm. So let me go back to my PR. And there, I got 2 commits now. So we're kind of at the same place, except now I got a bunch of stuff added. Got my chart.yaml, that helper I just created, the deployment, values.yaml. And that's cool because like I didn't remove any code. I like removing code, but this is like a new thing, a new feature, a new capability to deploy this thing. And that's super useful, right? We need to start thinking about how to deploy the Athens proxy in a structured way. So this is a really good step towards that. So I'm going to end it there. Next time, we'll check out how to actually test this stuff out, which is super useful. So thanks a lot, everybody, for watching, and we'll talk to you next time. See ya.